Wow! We have finally made it. We are down to our last module. And with this module, we'll be covering the Georgian time period. Under the Georgian time period are three styles. The furniture styles are Queen Anne, Georgian, and Chippendale. Just a few facts concerning Queen Anne. She was the last of the Stuart monarchs. Her reign spanned 12 years. Anne was the second daughter of the Catholic King James II, but she was raised a Protestant under the guidance of her uncle, King Charles II. And finally, her marriage to George, Prince of Denmark, was devoted but politically unremarkable. In terms of chairs, the curvilinear principle was most typically seen. The backs of chairs were given a curved top similar to a bent form, and were made slightly concave at shoulder height. A splat was introduced in the center of the back, which ran from the seat to the crest. The splat first obtained its interest only from its curved silhouette and beauty of grain. The frame of the seat of the chair was curved on the sides and front, and the legs were designed in a cabriole fashion, having a conventionalized knee and ankle form and coming down to a pad or clubfoot. The framework of the back of the chair near the top was frequently treated with one or two small breaks in the general sweep of the curve. These breaks are distinctively Chinese in origin. In armchairs, the arms also followed irregular curved forms. The first change in the development of the Queen Anne chair was in the piercing of the splat with simple curved cutouts. The next was the addition of a small amount of carving, usually an acanthus leaf, on the shoulder of the splat, and the addition of a scallop shell motif on the knee of the cabriole leg. At the same time, the club foot disappeared and the claw and ball foot was introduced. This is supposed to have been taken from the Chinese symbol showing the dragon's claw clasping the pearl of wisdom. Stretchers between chair legs were discontinued after 1708. With this particular slide, I'd like to point out the cabriole leg and how it terminates down here at the bottom with a type of foot that's known as trifid, Trifid. It's known as a trifid foot or trifid feet. So you can see the blown up detail here of the trifid. The use of marquetry as an enrichment for furniture was gradually discontinued as walnut and mahogany became fashionable. With the decline in marquetry, textiles provided the main areas of decoration. The growing demand for upholstered furniture simulated the production of embroidery. The richest embroideries included silver and gold thread and were intended for matching sets of bed covers and cushions. This very elegant chest on chest or tallboy was very fashionable during the Georgian time period. This was a piece of furniture that provided plenty of storage space. It has 3 long drawers surmounted by 3 short, narrow drawers in a row in the top half, and 3 long drawers in the lower portion. Its height, often as much as 6 feet, made the upper drawers a little inaccessible. This new piece of furniture is known as a bachelor's chest. It's a fun piece because the top folds over. So if you look, the top of the chest is hinged. You could take the top portion and fold it over, which you'll see in the next slide, and you have a place then that you can fold your clothes, put them in the drawer, and then flip the top back over. With this slide, I want you to notice the difference between the tall boy and the high boy. The tall boy usually sat on bracket feet, whereas the high boy has or utilizes more of the cabriole leg. So you have more airspace under the chest. So take a look at the two and make sure you understand the differences between a tall boy and also then a high boy. Oh, how those English folks love to gamble. What we see here is a typical card table. It has 4 cabriole legs terminating with the club foot, 2 of the legs attached to the hinged and folding frame underneath the tabletop. The legs moved with the frame to allow for the extended open position. With this slide, I really want to make sure you understand this idea of pattern book. Now, it says the craftsmen often followed pattern books. And what that means is a pattern book is kind of like the books we can buy when we go to Home Depot or Menards, which has ideas for floor plans. Well, that's a pattern book. So other topics of these pattern books would be flooring. So if you had a marble pattern or a parquet pattern, they would be shown in these pattern books. You would also have pattern books for ceilings, pattern books for chimney pieces, pattern books for built-in cabinets. So these pattern books may have been printed in Italy, and the only way that these ideas could be brought to England would be through these pattern books. So the English would go and buy these books, and they would know then what the latest fads were in Italy or in France. So that's the idea behind the pattern books. The aristocracy and the landed gentry, rather than the royal court, were the arbiters of taste during the Georgian style. The advancement of the arts was a primary motivator of this group. Palladianism was an enduring influence. One of the most prominent architects and furniture designers of the Georgian style was William Kent. Kent was an important influence upon furniture between the years 1725 to 1750. During the Georgian style, the sideboard table was a new and important piece used in the dining room. This ornamental piece was used beneath mirrors and between windows. As evidenced in this slide, side tables displayed great freedom and variety of form. Some of the more extravagant examples may be regarded as works of high relief sculpture rather than furniture. Cabochon centers were popular during this time period. If you take a look at this cabriole leg, the cabochon is right here. So defined, it says, as in the form of a gem, one which is oval. We can see the oval shape here, but it's a motif that's bordered by an ornamental carving, and it was usually found in the knees of a chair leg. So it's all carved, but it's usually this round oval that's surrounded by an ornamental carving. Tea drinking became very fashionable during this Georgian style. It was also fashionable for people to drink tea in private homes. So in the larger homes, we actually have for the first time a tea room. And this would be a room designated solely for the drinking of tea. This two-tier table is also known as a dumbwaiter. It was invented by the English for the purpose of keeping conversations more private. So this table would be used for desserts. You would place the tables in corners, load up the tables with desserts, and close the door. That way you could have a fluid conversation without servants coming in, overhearing, and then going out and spreading rumors. The last style that we're going to be talking about is Chippendale. In the year 1754, the first edition of a book entitled The Gentleman and the Cabinet Maker's Director was published by Thomas Chippendale. Thomas Chippendale was a furniture maker who learned his craft from his father, also named Thomas Chippendale. The young Thomas Chippendale reached a higher pinnacle of fame than any other English cabinet maker. What Chippendale really did was to capitalize upon the trend of the times. He took furniture styles that were prevalent, refined them to a certain degree, selected the finest woods, constructed his forms in the most perfect and solid manner, and with a highly developed sense of salesmanship. He sold his products to the nobility and leading connoisseurs of cabinet making. The designs for his furniture were taken from many sources. Classic, French, Louis XV, Chinese, and Gothic forms in ornament were combined in most extraordinary harmony and unity. He worked almost exclusively in mahogany. Chippendale also had a son named Thomas. It was this Thomas who carried on the cabinet making business until his death in 1822. With grandfather, father, and son all of the same name, the Chippendale influence covered a period of nearly a century. The use of mahogany lasted from about 1710 to 1770. This period has been called the Age of Mahogany. Any ideas of why you would need a fire screen in your room? Well, during this time period, most of the makeup that the women would wear was comprised of wax. So they needed something that would help shield their faces from those hot fires. So if they sat behind the fire screen, it was believed that then their makeup wouldn't run down their faces. This is known as Chinese Chippendale. This slide showcasing a Chinese Chippendale interior concludes the Georgian time period. I'd like to take this time to thank each and every one of you for your hard work, your devotion, and persistence in making this semester successful. Have a safe and joyous holiday season, and I look forward to seeing you next semester.